Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are looking or watching or listening to us. And Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you so much for being with Material Business. And this special edition we have going on since a month ago. We are talking with women in STEM. And it's been really successful, really fun, and we have enjoyed it a lot. So I hope you guys are enjoying it too. And Johanna, thank you so much for being here with us. I really appreciate you taking the time to come and sharing your knowledge and everything that you have to say. And
Thank you for the invitation.
anytime. So let me just go ahead and read your bio. Johanna Chavez Lares is a corrosion specialist with a chemical engineering bachelor's degree and a master's degree in corrosion. She is also certified as a cathodic protection specialist by API. She started her professional path in 2005 in the oil and gas industry at Petróleos de Venezuela PDVSA, where she developed risk-based inspection plans for static equipment, failure analysis, and corrosion control by cathodic protection and coatings. She has been a member of the Canadian Engineering since 2011, when she started working at Englobe and then at Nordastello. She has worked on the design, evaluation, and troubleshooting of cathodic protection systems, risk-based inspection analysis for static equipment, corrosion-related root cause analysis, among others, for several clients. Her chemical engineering background also allowed her to run the corrosion laboratory at Englobe. She loves to travel and try savory dishes from other countries. That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
Welcome, Johanna.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you
Perfect.
for that intro.
Yeah, no problem. So tell us, why did you end up in STEAM?
Well, actually, I end up in STEAM because when I was in high school, when I was studying, since I was little, I really like math and physics. Actually, my parents are high school teachers. My mom in literature and Spanish, and my father in mathematics and physics.
Wow.
So I, yeah, I yeah, was like trained I had to be good at school, and mathematics and physics were the subjects that I liked the most while I was studying. So in Venezuela, it was like, okay, if you like these subjects, you should go to engineering. It was like, it wasn't, yeah, it was just because of that. And when I finished the high school that I needed to go to the university, it was like among two uh, parts of what I wanted to do. One was engineering, and the other one was to be an accountant. Yeah, because I really like math, actually. So, and my mom, she was always like pushing, like, you have to be good, you have to be the best, you can't do anything you set your mind to. So she told me, why do you study both? So I went to the university, like the regular university, public university in Venezuela, to study chemical engineering while I was studying to be an accountant at a distance university. But there I was like, yeah, I wasn't going like the whole career full, but I was like taking 2 or 3 subjects depending on the engineering degree. So that's how I ended up, because it was like the way, yeah, I wanted to discover what I wanted to do. And I really, well, while I was studying chemical engineering, I realized that I didn't like process engineering that much. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. It was very, yeah, I was like, okay, I was like in the seventh semester. And I was like, yeah, but I have the a backup. I can be an accountant if I want to. I'm going just to finish chemical engineering just to have the degree, and afterwards I will go and finish the other one. But then something happened that in chemical engineering in my university, which is La Universidad del Zulia, corrosion was a mandatory subject to get the degree. So in the first class, I fell in love with corrosion, and I said, "This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life." That's why I studied chemical engineering, just in the first class. So from that point going forward, I center myself. I say, okay, I don't like process engineering, but I like corrosion. So I'm going to all everything I do going from here is going to be like directed to work in corrosion in the future. So when I finished my degree and I started like immediately the master's, and when I went to my first interview in PDVSA, it was to be a process engineer. But while I was in the interview, I was like, yeah, process engineering, that's good. But corrosion is better. And we should do that. And I started talking about career protection. I didn't get that job, but the manager who was one of the managers who was at that interview said, why don't we open a position for a corrosion engineer in that organization that was growing at that time. And they say, okay, and they opened a position just for me, and I was set up, yeah, just because I talk about corrosion with passion during my interview,
Wow.
maybe a lot of passion compared to process engineering, but that got me, yeah, a job for me, and that's how I ended up. And from there, I was working, and at the same time, I was completing master degree at Centro de Estudio de Corrosión, which is at Zulia University as well. So that's how I
Wow.
ended up.
That's
I
I
didn't
love
finish. I
that.
didn't finish. Yes, I didn't finish the accountant degree, but at least that helped me because I was like in the middle of the career. That helped me in the project management part of engineering. So that helped me really a lot. Those notions.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. I have never thought of the connection between, but yeah, you're right. There's
Yeah.
numbers, and yeah, I say that everything that you learn pays off one time or another later in life, or
Exactly.
you never know. So that's really
Exactly.
good. Awesome.
When you're going to use it. And it's funny because process engineering really helps you when you have problems with internal corrosion to understand the basics. So for instance, here in Canada, I realized that corrosion was more directed to materials or metallurgical engineers that
Mhm,
don't necessarily know a lot of about process.
mhm.
So when I go and help them, or I see from the processing point of view, is I gave another perspective, and they're always like, "How do you know that?" Yeah, because I have a background in chemical engineering. I saw that. So yeah, you everything you learn, you can use it later on.
Absolutely. That's so great. And you're absolutely
Yeah,
right. Like every time that we do corrosion assessments or corrosion studies, CCDs, you name it, it is much more better to have the background from
yeah,
process. And then it's critical
exactly,
to have that first meeting with the process person that walks you through the system and then tells you exactly how
exactly.
it goes. So yeah, that's really good. Awesome.
Mhm.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So tell
Yeah,
me, what does
thank you.
a day to day look like for you? Because you work with all pipelines, and then we
Yeah,
know that Canada has those pipelines that were built when the code was like this thick, not that thick.
well, oh my God. Well, right now, because I didn't, well, it wasn't mentioned in the bio, but I work for an oil, an operator. We have like 800 to 1,000 kilometers of pipeline here in Canada. in Ontario, Quebec, and Alberta. And yeah, the day-to-day working at an operator is different from the consulting part, because as an operator, you have to know a lot, not only know about corrosion and the thickness and cutter protection, but you have to know about the regulations and about health and safety and about agreement with other entities, and to mix all that with corrosion.
Mhm.
So from that point of view, you are like divided. You have to follow the like the inspections for the cutter protection of the pipelines, or integrity inline inspections. You have to have all that documentation to comply with the regulations.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I have like a little job, like is to know what is happening where, for instance, you mentioned the coating where it was thick, but we have some parts where we have tape, which is worse than the thick, because we believe that in some parts the tape is bonded and the protection is not going to that. So if depending on the length of those sections, you have to make a plan to decide which section you're going to change first.
Mhm.
Because unfortunately we cannot excavate well, I don't know, 500 kilometers of pipelines at a time, again, because you have to follow all those regulations and agreements and talk to a lot of people to change it. So you have to make a plan. So I will say like it's a little bit okay, technical part to like make your plan, your risk plan. Okay, which section I need to change first, but you have like a stakeholder part that you need to talk and to, let's say, not convince, but to try to make the other people or the other sections or the stakeholders engage to what you're doing in that plan. So that's a really like an overall of what I do as a corrosion specialist for an pipe for pipelines.
Wow, that
'Cause there's
sounds
a lot,
interesting.
there's a lot of little pieces. It's not only cathode protection, this anode, this cathode, this is the coating, but okay, you have to like explain that to engage the stakeholders to back up your plan to change what you have to change. Because I'm saying tape, but it could be also like an anode bed that is dying, that you have to replace it. Well, there you have to talk with a lot of entities to make that happen. But you have to have a plan and to show them, okay, why. So it's a lot of that.
Absolutely. And maybe for people that don't really know about the Canadian regulation, each jurisdiction, each province has their own regulation. So if a pipeline like crosses the board between the province of, let's say, Ontario and Quebec, then you will have two different regulators to comply with.
Yeah. But what we do in those cases, or what companies does in those cases, is they select the more difficult one,
The
and we
restringent
applied it.
ones.
Yeah, exactly, the stringent one, and we're going to apply it in all. So it's going to be easier. We know if we that works in, let's say, Quebec for something, that's going to
Mhm.
work in the rest.
Awesome. Yeah, that
Yeah,
definitely that simplifies the
exactly.
amount of paperwork, I'll say.
Unless, well, for the part of inline inspection, I know that there are a lot of changes between Alberta and Ontario and Quebec,
Mhm.
and it's more difficult to make them all equal. So for instance, for inline inspection, yeah, I know that that's going to be depending on the jurisdiction, but category protection is not like I feel like nobody, like the regulators don't is like they don't actually know how that works. So it's it's not that hard to comply with one and to comply with the others. It's going to
Mhm.
be better or more easier.
Perfect. Yeah, that's interesting. So you mentioned that you have to play also the role of the tell like stakeholders, we need to do this, we need to do that. Can you tell me like which tools do you have? Like because I know like we love corrosion, right? Like when we find I remember my times at inspector and then I came out of the vessel smiling and like, oh, I found the crack and everyone was trying to kill me. Like, why are you smiling? And so it is definitely not with technical arguments. It's not with the amount of corrosion. It is like what are some of those, convincing terms, or what tools do you have to say, okay, this is important, we need to do this, and get them to listen.
Well, I think fortunately somebody has already started that job
Nice.
within the company, so it hasn't been that hard. I will say that in some cases it will say like the most difficult case has been like the AC corrosion. That there are some parts that we need to improve, like the mitigation system, because those are mitigation systems that were installed. I don't know when, because I don't have drawings or plans, but they don't work anymore, or the power lines had increased their the yeah the
The
current,
capacity.
the
Mm-hmm.
capacity in time. So we have, yeah, to convince or to talk with people, with stakeholders about that, has been from the point of view of safety, personal safety.
Mm-hmm.
So in those cases, I talk to them in terms of personal safety, for the 15 volts, because in some cases we have seen volts higher than 15 that might not mean corrosion, but for in terms of personal, they're not good, or we're not under the regulations, uh, and it has worked. Like that has been the argument that I've used. Like, okay, yeah, but we're in terms of safety, we're not complying. So
Mm-hmm.
project has have like worked out because of that. But yeah, I usually use like the safety use safety arguments to convince, or to to talk about them, because that is like the most, well, I one of the most powerful tools
Mm-hmm.
in this industry. It's very, you can having an accident is not, it's not very good in terms of money and in terms of yeah, how public is going to see you. So that part is always good to point that out. To spend $1,000 to install a ground bed now, but in terms of how much does a excavation to close a hole cost?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that is going to be at least $5,000. So it's up to you what you want to do. So usually it's safety and money to use a convince, yeah, to convince people or stakeholders to make them be in your way, because as you say, technical part that we find like, I don't know, exciting, for them it's not going
Yeah,
to be that exciting.
absolutely. Yeah, it's what we were talking the other day, and then someone said to me, "Is we need to get in the terms that they understand," and those are
Yeah,
definitely two of the major indicators that always make the message come across.
exactly.
So it is very interesting. So it seems you've been in many many projects. From all the projects that you have worked on, like which one you have a really good remembrance or bad remembrance, whatever it's like it's a special to you in
Well,
some way.
when I will say that my first project here in Canada, which was working with some telecom companies, that I don't know if you have seen the towers that they use for
Mhm.
telecommunications, that they are like everywhere. Some of those towers are anchored to the soil with metal legs
Mhm.
and concrete blocks at the end of those legs. So when I started, there was the company I was work for at that time was starting a project to inspect the legs and to install catheter protection systems with bisacrificial anodes for the legs because the area is not that not that large, but it's important.
Mhm.
So that job took me like all around Quebec and Ontario because there were towers like everywhere. So I get to know a big part of the country because of that. So and I saw towers like in the middle of farms, in the middle of cow fields,
Wow.
cornfields, you name it. So I get to meet a lot of people while working there and a lot of places, amazing places around Canada, and that really helped me with my French.
Of
So
course.
it was hard because I remember during the interview that we discussed at that company we were discussing like field work, and I was like, yeah, I come from the oil and gas industry. I'm used to field work and safety equipment and filling filling out permits. But when I started project, it was like really field forest work. Yeah, but I'm not used to this, and it's cold.
A different
So
kind of feel.
yeah, completely different kind of feel. I was not expecting that. So I'm always going to remember that. And it's good because after all that work we did at that time and for a lot of years, I think they're still working on that. There is an organization here in Canada that takes care of antenna towers, and they are like working on standards to
Yes.
how they are going to apply catheter protections to those towers because yeah, the beginning was like we put anodes, we don't know what they are, we put them inside the bag that they come from. We don't take out the bag, so it's not really working because they don't know. So yeah, that organization is working to yeah, because they work with the towers, like in general they hide the inspection part of the yeah, like the wire anchors, like the wires, like the antenna, like the all the structure. Yeah, but they started like in a standard for the underground parts. So it was really cool to be a part of that.
Wow. So how long were you traveling for?
Oh my God. Like from 2011, and yeah, I was coming and going until 2014, I said, because at that time I started as a technician because I didn't have the order stamp to work as an engineer, but when I got it, I started being project manager for those works. So I didn't do the travel that long just to train personnel, and I was more in the office taking care of the of the project from the
Wow.
office.
That sounds amazing. It makes you
Yeah,
see parts, like you said, that normally regular people will not even think about. So
yeah,
it's very interesting and super
it was.
excellent. So you've worked in different companies, different industries, fronts. Why do you think it's important that, academia and labs and industry, regulators, we were talking about regulators, that we all work together in this industry? Why do you think it's important?
I think it is important because each one of those parts of those sections has some um, like advantage, but they also have some limitations. And we work together. We create a synergy work to overcome those limitations, like the limitations that if each part has. So, for instance, like if you're working like in the industry, you are like in your day-to-day job, you might not have a lot of time to think like outside the box to come up with new ways to solve something, while academia can do it, but maybe they don't have like the money to do so. So when we work all together, we can overcome all those limitations and those obstacles, and the job gets done.
Definitely. Yeah, I cannot
Yeah,
agree more with you. Is the more we include
exactly.
people, the
One
more we
another.
include exactly, the more we bring different points of views. People that have been for a long time servicing, people that are just graduating, students, and I have seen very brilliant students, both pre and post grad, and presenting, for example, panels, and it's very amazing to see a different
Yeah.
point of view. So it's
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was giving a lecture for my alma mater from my university last year, and I was talking about AC corrosion and mitigations and everything. And some professors that gave me that taught me at the university were there, and they were like from their academia point of view, they were asking some questions like, "Oh, but have you thought of doing this and this?" And no, not at all. I was like only thinking about like the power line. I
Mhm.
wasn't thinking about talking to them and solving that first. No, but I will, but yeah, as you say, everyone is going to have a point of view, and it, it's good that we're all working like together.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm mentors or some guides. Can you talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that? How did you got that opportunity, or did you search for it, or it was something that appeared in your way? Like how is that work?
Well, I will have to say that yeah, I have some very good guides along my career since the beginning. I will have to say, first of all, was my mom. That even though she was not like in the engineering field, she was like in the education field, but I always saw her like studying, like improving, like yeah, go go go. And yeah, when she retired, she was like in the managing part of education. She wasn't teaching, but she was a manager for the government. So I don't know if that helped me a lot. That in education field there are a lot of women like in Venezuela
Mhm.
at that time. So I really saw a lot of women like involved in doing the job, and like go we can do it, we can do it. And I think that really helped me like think that there's nothing I cannot do. I
Mhm.
have all the tools to do whatever I set my mind to. I will have to say that was my like the first. The second was my professor Ola Distroconis de Rincon. At like she was my professor the first time I saw about corrosion. I saw something about corrosion. She was teaching my first class at the when I was studying chemical engineering. She was recently her name is used for one award in AMPP for
Mm.
the field applied technology award. Because she's very good in the corrosion. She's very known in the corrosion field. And I will have to say she because I remember that I think I'm never going to forget that class that she said, okay, not a lot of you are going to love this field, and that's why you're always going to find a job. And if you like it, if you're good, if you study, you're going to find a job and you are going to this. And she was right. And yeah, from that moment, she was like. And after that, when I started the master in the Centro de Estudio de Corrosión, um, there were a lot of professors as well. That is funny because there most of the professors were women. So it was yeah. We have la profesora Matilde Fernández de Romero, which was a specialist in internal corrosion. Yolanda Hernandez, that was specialist in concrete corrosion. So a lot of persons who studied with me and were doing their masters at that time, but they were working at the laboratory were women, Valentina Millano. So it was like, okay, I was surrounded by these amazing women that helped me like improve. I had professors that were men as well, like my tutor for my thesis at the master degree, which is Miguel Sanchez, that helped me out along the way. And actually, we're still in communications, and wherever I have a question, a technical question in electrochemistry, he's the guy I call and I contact. Yeah, and when I got here, actually, it was just a thing of believing in what my professor Ladi said, that there's corruption everywhere, and you're
Mhm.
going to find a job wherever you go. And when I got here, I a lot of people told me, "Oh, but you're a chemical engineer, you won't find a job." Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not a chemical engineer. I'm a corrosion engineer." Oh, but where's that? And how do
Mhm.
you tell that I'm not going to find a job? So I got tired of everyone saying you're not going to find a job, and I looked for a job myself. Like, okay, jobs, corrosion, Montreal, and the first CV I sent, they contacted me right away, and I started working with them like 3 months after I arrived here in Canada. And after that, it was just like contacts and knowing people. And as you said, I've worked in a lot of industries, and that opened a lot of opportunities for the rest.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Did you see a difference, like coming from? It seems to me like a lot of the people in Venezuela that are in this field, there is a lot of empowerment in the women's side. Did you feel the same way in Canada, or do you feel that in Canada is your experience that is more male dominated, or more, or is equally, or how do you see that?
No, I think because I try not to put like I don't let that to discourage me. So
Mhm.
when I arrived here, it was more male dominated than than women. Actually, back in Venezuela, like in the industry, when I was working, there were more men that were working, for instance, in career protection. But I never saw that like, and as okay, there are more men, they won't listen to me. I really didn't take. It was like, okay, they are just persons.
Mhm.
So in here, I think I've seen the same thing. There are more men working in engineering in general, but I don't see that as an impediment. It was like, okay, there are persons. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to show what I have and what I know, and I think that has helped me.
Of course, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
great. So, what would you tell yourself 15 years ago? What do you tell Joanna, like the younger version of yourself? If you can go.
I will have to say that don't be afraid to make mistakes, because mistakes are a great way to learn,
Mhm.
like the best way to learn, and everything is going to be good. Good is going to work at the end. So I think will be that. I'm learning. I'm still learning it, but yeah, I would have loved to learn it before, earlier.
So, are you using, you're saying that you're still learning it. What techniques are you using to learn that, or how do you embody that within yourself?
No, I'm still like every time I make like something that I consider a mistake or that it doesn't work. It's just like, okay, we're going I try not to take it personally,
Mhm.
and to think to yeah, to think that okay, this is the best I could do with the information I had at this moment. So that's why
Mhm.
I took that decision. So it's more like an internal an internal work. yeah, to think about that, like try to meditate a lot, thinking about that, being less hard on myself when I make mistakes.
That's really great that you're mentioning that. And the very reason I am asking is because the previous interview we talked with two of the ladies, and that very subject came up, and
Oh,
it is very. We were talking about how it is very important that we take care of ourselves, and then that we know
yeah,
our limits. And then Lauren said that you need to, um, what did she say? Forgive yourself, and allow yourself to be gentle with yourself, is what she said. Be
exactly.
gentle with yourself, and then make sure that you take care of yourself in that way. So it's talking to different people's different, backgrounds, and then ages different, and then industries, different parts of the country or the continent or wherever, and we come up with the same theme. So it is very important. So whomever is listening to this and you're younger than us,
Yeah,
then that's
yeah,
one of the things we want to highlight is uh, really take care of yourself.
absolutely,
Cool.
absolutely.
Super. Perfect. So now we have come to the time that I'll ask you, do you have any message for people that are listening to this? I don't know, younger generation, um, women, men, whomever is, and then maybe someone that is thinking on starting a career in pipeline or in risk assessment, or like, what is your message for them?
And that definitely will be, first of all, do the things that you love to do. If you love to do if you like to do math and you want to be an engineer, well, do math and be an engineer. Don't let other people discourage you,
Mhm.
and don't listen to yeah, like the limitations of other people that they are projecting on you. So if you love something, go for it. And the second part will be like when you are doubting, because there are some times of doubt,
Mhm.
always try to listen later. What if that goes right?
And that's a really nice approach. So
Yeah,
we always think of the opposite, right?
the
What if that
worst.
goes wrong? But it's very important just to see the
Yeah,
bright side. What if that goes right? What could
what is that?
happen?
Qatar protection technologies training. I did it like in 2010 in Venezuela. And I remember the first thing the teacher said was when, okay, he presented himself and he said like only 20% of the people in this room is going to pass this test.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so everyone was super nervous the whole 6 days, because at that time we took the exam the last day, like it was a written exam, and everyone was super nervous. Everyone was studying like crazy, and I remember I was only like, what if I'm in the 20%?
Mhm.
So I tried to study, and the rest of the days were like, what if I'm in the 20? Every time I had a doubt, like I'm not going to pass, like everyone else was, like in the same. We were all like, oh, we're not going only 20%. Where everyone was going like in the opposite direction. Oh, what happened if I don't pass? But I was like, what if I'm in the 20%? And I tried to study it and do all that week in that way, and I passed.
Oh, that's
So
excellent.
I always
Definitely.
try like, what happened if I yes, I pass this test, if I get into into this company. For instance, when I finished the when I went to the interview, I was this first interview here in Canada. I was like, yeah, it's going to be in French. You're not going to know. I don't know. They're going to ask you things that you won't know. Yeah, but what if I pass everything? So I calm myself, and I I got the job. So I always try to think in the best case scenario for those aspects.
That is so amazing, and it's a really good point of view to
Yeah,
observe because, like I said before, is we are always focusing. Like your teacher set up your mindset already, or the person in that training only 20%, and then you get obviously your brain
exactly.
picks up on that, and it's 80%. Oh my God, it's like the majority. So it's the chances are I won't. Chances are I won't succeed. Chances are I won't pass. But
Exactly.
if you focus your mind on the positive outcome, then it delivers a complete different message to your internal
Exactly.
self.
And that helps you a lot. And I think that, yeah, every time I have been like in something that I really want, I'm like, oh, I try to focus on what if I got it? What if the good thing, the good outcome happens?
That's really,
And that
really
helped me.
interesting. Thank you for sharing. That's a really
Oh,
good trick. Perfect. So we've talked about the younger version of yourself and then anyone that is listening, but especially for women that want to start in, because we are talking about that this segment is dedicated to women. And I'm
yeah,
so happy and so grateful to all of you guys, all gals, that accepted to come and share because it's really motivating to someone that is listening to this or watching this in the future and says, okay, if they're doubting, they know that there is 10% of us that succeeded or whatever it is. So do you have any message for those girls or women
well,
that starting in
first
this
of
path?
all, I think that this kind of opportunities to share and to meet other women who succeeded, it's a very, very good tool because I think as I talked to as I mentioned before, I think the fact to see my mom to be independent, to study, to yeah, to motivate herself and to go for it, and after to see all my professors at the university, like they were teaching at the same, yeah, it was like same thing, men and women. So I think that helped me a lot to open to that idea that was like we're the same and we can
Mhm.
work in the same areas, we can do the same jobs, we can be leaders, we can be managers, we can be whatever we want to do. So first of all is to go and to see, to look for information of people who have done the same thing, because when after that I realized that yeah, the work in engineering especially is more male than women than female. And but already was said it that okay, I can do whatever I want, and I can have a position wherever I want. I only have to work. So I think that for those persons who already know, yeah, don't focus on the negative again. For instance, I think I listened someone said that in AMPP 30% of the members were women. Well, not focus, okay, only 30%.
Mhm.
Only if you want to be a member of the MVP. Nobody's going to tell you no. So it's like just follow your heart and don't let other people, the limitations of other people be projected on you.
That's a really good skill to
Yeah,
have, and I guess is inherited because everything that you have been taught, and then you looked after very powerful women, and so I guess it is part of the reason on
yeah.
the successes that are there for sure.
So yeah, I think so as well. That
So
everything I know
definitely
that
be
everyone doesn't have the same opportunities. Maybe they come from another type of home. But yeah, just sharing and looking for information and seeing what other women have done that could really help, and that gives yeah more tools to other women.
absolutely. And maybe what if I allow myself to say, reach out, because
Yeah,
sometimes it feels lonely, but it doesn't have to. Like
Exactly.
you can look after other people and then reach out. Like I reached to Joanna and I said, I love what you're doing. Like, do you want to come and share it? And she's like,
Yeah.
of course. So it is like nothing wrong with reaching out and perhaps looking to get a word of I don't know what to do. Like just like your professor that you always go if you have electrochemical questions.
Yeah.
Just um just
Yeah, exactly.
build that
That's very
community of
important too.
exactly of trusted resources that you can go and say, hey, what would you do in my position, or what do you think? Or do you know
Hmm.
something I can read, or is there anything, any resource you can do? Like, and I'm sure that we can lift each other a lot
Exactly.
if we are there together. Just like you said, when we talk about academia and industry and all that, the more we work together, the better. So I'm
Yeah,
very
the better
grateful
the results.
again to have people that are so willing to come and share things and then extend the ladder for whomever is wanting to take it.
Yeah, yeah. It's good.
Awesome. Joanna, it has been super pleasure having you here. Thank you very much for coming. I look forward to having you in the future.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Thank you
And
for taking the time to prepare this for women. It's really amazing what you're doing.
thank you. I appreciate that. And for the rest of you, we'll keep posted. We'll continue with the series on women. And then if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe so you're always in the list of reception of our latest news. And with that, we'll have a happy rest of your weekend or your week. And we'll see each other in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye
Thank you
bye.
all.
Bye.
Bye.